Okay, welcome to tonight's strategy call with Cami. The reason I'm so excited about this particular call, I will be sharing with you the recording of the conversation I had with Dr. James yesterday, and he is so excited about what we are doing. Now, I did an interview with him about 3 months ago now, and he's very friendly, he's very receptive. He will respond to any of you and do Zooms with you and people. He works for Texas Tech as a professor. I don't know exactly how he gets compensated, but suffice it to say, he's not in any sales position and doesn't want anything from you. Like I try to say, well, how can I help you? How can I give you leads or whatever? And that's just not what he's about. He literally lives to share the word about how nonprofits can get funded through non-cash assets, not just real estate. He can get very, very complicated and into a whole bunch of stuff that we don't do. But the real estate aspect, he even told me in this interview, you'll see him talk about how they don't even have a whole lot of research around it. Guys, what we are doing here is so groundbreaking that even Dr. James, who has been researching non-cash assets and building legacy for nonprofits for 20 years, wants to be researching what we are doing. So there's a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of let's go figure it out as we go, but that's the beauty of it. So when I was talking to Dr. James yesterday, I said, first of all, I would like for him to come together and help the real agents of change, specifically talking about real estate, specifically talking about how real estate agents and the real agents of change can get out and start talking to people, creating conversations, and all that fun stuff. And he has a lot of interesting research around words that work, what words to use. For example, instead of using donation, a gift. Like if you're typing something out, hey, would you like to make a donation of real estate? If you actually put, would you like to make a charitable gift of real estate? Psychologically, that's better. And there's a lot more. But so we were talking about how I was thinking that everyone should be talking more to financial service people, but everybody wants to talk to nonprofits and all that. And he said, well, he said, I've been thinking about this a lot, Cami. He said, this is actually, he said, I've been obsessing about it. Yay! Dr. James is obsessing about what we're doing. Guys, this is a great point. Make phone calls to people. I didn't know him. I cold called him, and now he's partnering with us on this. Yay! So I'm going to share with you a document that he wrote, all of the bullet points around this. What he's saying is basically this. If you are going to talk to nonprofits, what can you say to them? How can we talk to them in a way that doesn't confuse the crap out of them, makes you feel really comfortable, and helps you? He really gets that this is about getting donations, but also about lead generation and business building. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to come over here and grab what he's talking about is doing a presentation with and for the nonprofits. I really want to be able to see you guys. Okay, I'm going to put you up here in the corner. Okay, so let's say you want to talk to a nonprofit, and at the end of my conversation with him that I'll be sending you the recording of, he says to let's start with people we know and start small, like local. So, like for example, Girl Scouts, let's find the local place, the one that you've been playing with, because you can reach out to them and you can say, hey, let's do this presentation. This is an example of the topic: accelerating your fundraising campaign with major gift of assets. Now I'm going to break this sentence down for you. He said the most important part here is major gifts of assets. He said in the nonprofit world, that phrase, major gift of assets, is the buzz. That's what they want to learn about. That's what they want to hear about. He said, if you start trying to say, hey, let me teach you about charitable gifts of real estate, it confuses them. They think it's risky. They don't understand it. They immediately put a wall up. And this isn't me saying it, it's him saying it. So this is really important. Accelerating your fundraising campaign, I asked him at the end of my call, would it be better to say that or something like how to 6 times your endowments with major gifts of assets? And he said that's even better. It's the major gifts of assets that we're talking about right here. So this first part, he talks about we really need to let them know what this is all like, the why, like really sell them out on why they want to have this conversation. Now, this is the actual presentation that we would be doing in front of them and their board members. And as he puts it, the people on the board are some of the main donors. They are some of the high net worth, influential people in the community. So doing this presentation is getting us in front of the right people. Whether this nonprofit itself starts to accept gifts of real estate or not is putting us in front of the right people. So why major gifts of assets, real estate and business shares? What he's saying here is we want to group into this conversation, not just real estate, but mention, part of the major gift of assets is business shares and stocks. This gives us a reason and a way to partner with the people that they call CFPs, Certified Financial Planners. So when we're doing this presentation, and it wouldn't be this, these are just the bullet points. I'm going to have Danielle see about creating something really, really simple that we can all use. And, it's going to be something that you can create yourself or something you can buy from her, but we're going to start creating these. So in the why portion of the presentation, we are explaining to them what the charitable benefit is, maybe talk about the 6 times the endowments. We talk about a little bit about the savings to the donor, and the psychology, why mentioning these gifts shifts people's generosity mindsets. You guys are going to want to watch a couple of his presentations around this, around mindsets of people. He mentions here about, if it's a church, you can even bring up scripture as to why people want to donate big amounts. So the part 1 of the presentation is why they want to start considering major gifts of assets. Part 2 of the presentation starts to get into the mechanics. Now, there's a method to the madness here. It's really interesting how he lays this out. So part 1, we want to start kind of letting them understand that this is risky and it is complicated. So we tell them why they want to know about it. Then we kind of put the fear of God in them a little bit about how it can be risky. So it's complex and dangerous. Real estate, there's all these environmental risks. The fact that the relationships with the donor, if the donor donates a piece of real estate, if the donor wants to donate real estate, imagine if the nonprofit themselves said to the donor, we won't take your real estate, what kind of bad juju that would put with them? Or what if they took the piece of real estate and then they weren't able to get as much for it? Then they themselves, the nonprofit, what if they didn't get as much as the donor wanted to get for the property? In other words, when they bring in a third party person, which we're going to talk about in a minute, it relinquished them of all of that too. This little point here about the stock transfer medallion requirements, what he's saying is if we are partnering together, real estate and the stock kind of mindset, people actually understand donating stock. It's something that they do, that they're used to doing, that the fundraisers are even more used to. Because when you start talking about donor advice funds like Fidelity Charitables and places like that, Earl Schwab and those places, those kind of places have been taking stocks for nonprofits for many years. They kind of understand that. So what he's saying here is you want to mention that even if they were to take stocks, there's a lot of complications in that. Then we're mentioning that there is simplicity, though, and safety when you have an outside person, an outside third party doing these kind of transactions for you. So where it says here fund and dash DAF, the DAF stands for donor advised fund, and I can explain what that is when I get done telling you about this. If you need to know, just write it down. But what we're doing is we are letting them know, we're dropping the hint that there is a way to do it a little bit more simply if you bring in a third party that can help you with these. Now, this is really interesting. So the second part of the how is to share with them, look, you've got options. Option number one is you can hire a planned giving fundraiser. You can hire that kind of person. You need to have the expertise. It's complex assets. You'll notice in this where it says CFP/CRES. Now, CRES is us, Charitable Real Estate Specialist. CFP, Certified Fundraising Professional or Certified Financial Planner, is something that they already understand. What he shared with me was when we put both of these together, what we're doing psychologically is we are showing them CFP that they understand and respect, and we are partnering it with CRES so that they start to see us and our designation as a partner, lending credibility with something that they already understand. So option number one is they can hire someone like this. Option number two, option number one is they can actually train somebody in their organization. Very time consuming, very expensive to do that. Plus, if they train someone, they could end up leaving and going and doing it somewhere else. Option number two, they can hire an outside consultant that is a certified financial planner, or they can hire an outside CRES. Once again, it's still very expensive, and those people are not strongly connected to the community. Now check this out. Option number three, convince an expert who cares about your cause to do it for free for you. So for example, Beverly Jones goes into Make-A-Wish, and instead of her trying to convince them to do something, and you guys know I am big on stop trying to sell people on this at all. This actually turns it on its ear, because what we're saying to them is, look, you want to start taking major gifts of assets. Here's why you want to take it. Here's some of the reasons that it's kind of risky to try to do it on your own. What you can do is hire someone or train someone, or considering the fact that I already understand it, you could convince me to do it for you. You could ask me to do it. In other words, let's put ourselves in a place of value and have them ask us to do it for them. That's a different concept. So the third part of the how, he says, okay, so now that you've told them these three options, you can train someone, very expensive, you can hire someone, very expensive, or you could be kind enough to ask someone like myself to do it for you for free. Now, here's how we're going to do it. It's a three-step process: encouraging the gift, talk plus listen plus help. So number one, what we're sharing with them is we want to start to talk to their donor and their following from a perspective of incorporate examples into communications, right? Send out an email, send out social media, allow me to present at donor meetings. So when we talk about talking, this is where they are starting to share in their circles that there's this thing called charitable real estate. There's this donation of big assets. In other words, starting to talk about it, get the talk going a little bit. This red line here is talking about you could offer to give a talk to their donors called How to Give Smarter, Top 5 Strategies. Just an example of a conversation. But imagine if you did a talk for their donors, How to Give Smarter. Here's the top 5 reasons that donating real estate is giving smarter. Just a simple conversation. You're not selling anybody anyway, at all. The first part is talking about it, just getting out there, meeting and talking about it. Now, here's the clincher, number two. The second part from talking about it is listening, getting a survey done. So all of these people who want to say, I love it, what's next? What do we do next? What's next? Well, one of the things that Make-A-Wish could do, Beverly, or that Parkinson's could do, Michael, is send their donor list a survey. Now, if you're watching any of Dr. James's stuff, you'll see examples of different surveys that he sent out. So you want to keep the surveys simple, and I'm going to talk to Danielle about creating surveys. The nonprofit themselves can create surveys if they already have them. They can do their own, but we all have already seen confused people do nothing, and if they don't have the tool, they're not going to use it. So if we create surveys that they can send out to their own donors, make it really simple for them, it'll be really easy. So in the survey, we're going to talk to them about, hey, I'm just curious, what's most important to you about being a donor and a contribution to this nonprofit? There might be multiple choice. There will be a few questions to kind of lead up to the main question. Let's see, do you know how giving assets avoids capital gains taxes? That's a simple yes or no question. He said, actually, the last question he put here, which is, what is the likelihood that you might consider a gift of stocks in the next 6 months, would actually be a better leading question, because that's a question that people have heard. It's something they understand a little bit more. Leading up to the question, what is the likelihood that you might consider a gift of real estate in the next 6 months? So if in this survey, these are their choices, none, there's no choice, there's no chance, slight possibility, somewhat likely, likely, probable, definitely. He says, what we can do is we can let them know that anyone who does the survey who answers anything other than none, if they even answer, well, it's a slight possibility I would donate real estate in the next 6 months. Here's the thing. They are telling you, yes, I own real estate. Yes, I am considering what my options are with that real estate. And Dr. James was very clear in our conversation that even though he's the foremost authority in how to handle donations and non-cash asset donations and all that, he also still knows that this is a perfect way for all of us to get our foot in the door, lead generate, and build business of donations and everything else too. So they do this survey. So we're listening, we're asking, they send this survey to their 100 or their 100,000, whatever they have. And when the survey goes out, the third part, talk, listen, help. So the third part of the help is the follow-up. So we talk a lot about how the nonprofits don't really want to give up their donor list. They're so afraid we're going to go in and take their donor list or do something with it or whatever. So what we're letting them know is, look, once you've sent out the survey and there's some people who are interested, they're somewhat likely, that's where we step in. Because you've asked us to help you, we're going to follow up with those people, find out what questions they have about it, and walk them through the process, which for us would be bringing them on a call with Bruce or filling out one of the property questionnaires that we have. How much do they owe on it? What is their intention? Is it a charitable intention? Is it just a tax benefit that they're looking for? How much equity do they have? In other words, when we do step number 3 of the help, that's when we step in as the expert. And think about it. Now you've got donors on their list who are saying they're somewhat likely to donate real estate. So we know they own real estate. We know they love that cause. We know that they're considering what they might do with their real estate. Guys, this gives us a beautiful reason to have a simple, educated, sophisticated conversation with these people that turns into the relationships and resources and listings, et cetera, et cetera. So we share with them that they can send out the donor survey before you do that presentation that I mentioned above, the one that's called How to Give Smarter, Top 5 Strategies. They can say to their donors, hey, donor list, we have an expert that's going to come in and help us to learn how to give smarter and give us 5 strategies. They've asked that we fill out this survey ahead of time so that they can tailor their presentation to exactly what you need to know that's going to help you out. We could tell them that we're going to send the survey in the mail. It could be a good old fashioned printed out in the mail. It could be by email. However they want to do it. They have control over how their donors receive the survey. And so follow up by providing advice and expertise. So once again, the goal of all this is to build relationships, really show these people that we are the advisor that they need to work with. And this whole part up here about the CFP/CRES and building that that credibility by partnering us with that designation. In the board, they probably already have a CFP. And that's awesome because you can, in your marketplaces, you can reach out to the nonprofit offering to have this kind of a presentation. You can ask them, hey, who's your CFP? Because I want to partner with them. I want them to be a part of this presentation with me. Because at the end of the day, guys, the CFP who can handle donations of stock and whatever else cannot do what we do, and we need a reason to build relationship with them. We each and all of us could be in our marketplace doing this presentation to 3 or 5 or 10 different nonprofits, every one of them having a different CFP. Every one of them, that CFP is working with 10, 50, 100, 1,000 clients that have property that could be donated. In other words, what this is suggesting is that instead of just randomly talking to nonprofits and randomly having them go back and talk to their board, or randomly bringing them to a Q&A and then always ending with the question, okay, we love it, what's next? Now we actually can have something. So tomorrow when Debbie and I speak with Joey at the Alzheimer's community and we chat him up, and when he says, well, this is great, what do we do next? We can say, well, there's a really simple, and Dr. James said this could be a 5-minute, 15-minute, hour-long, however much time they give you. We can let them know, well, we have a really simple presentation, how to 6 times your endowments through gifts, I can't remember exactly the words, gifts of large assets, whatever, it's not real estate. And we can offer to do that presentation for him. And we can ask them, who's your CFP? Because they can be a part of this with us. And if they do have other realtors on their board, so what? They don't know how this works. So that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg with this. Dr. James is actually in the middle of writing a chapter in a book or a whole book or something. But in about 2 months, when his book is done, I'm going to have him come in and do some training just for the higher level people in this group around the right wording, around creating these conversations and relationships and all that kind of stuff. But for right now, this is something we can get started on immediately. What kind of observations do you have?
Well, I am super excited about it. I love having the structure and being able to say, okay, this is kind of the flow and how we're going to roll, so that, me, I like structure with it. So I know what's next and how do I get them there. And really looking forward to having something kind of in writing about what to say when we get there. Because we actually already have a couple of nonprofit boards that we've been invited to speak to. And then I told you about the Edward Jones or whatever it is. So yeah, this is awesome. Yay, you.
Yes. And now notice that the CFP, I don't know all these acronyms, but that when that person who is the certified planning consultant person, when they come in and talk, they don't try to explain all the details of what they do. Notice that in that whole process, I mean, when we create a little PowerPoint, it'll say something like, why do you want to do this? Well, you can 6 times your endowment with non-cash assets, especially real estate. So we'll have little bullet points, but guys, this is not about explaining charitable real estate. This is about showing up as the CRES that has gone through the training and is the edified expert, just like that CFP person is. You are explaining why they want to 6 times their endowment. You're explaining why they need a third party to help them. You're giving them their options. You can always send somebody to get certified. You can hire somebody else, because he talked about how people are doing these types of presentations, Michael, and getting paid. He said those CFP people, the people with Edward Jones or whatever that do that for a living, when they do these presentations, a lot of times they get paid a couple of grand to come in and do the presentation. And then they get paid to work with the nonprofits donors that are wanting to donate stock. And then the donors hiring them to help them with all of their stuff. So that person's getting paid on the front end, in the middle, and on the back end. And Dr. James said, I'm not suggesting that you guys go out and try to charge $2,000 to do a presentation. He said, I'm just sharing with you that this is very common for that other part of the slash. And so for us to step in as just another edified expert advisor that they're used to having come in without explaining all the details of everything, is just going to help them to kind of make the transition into what we're doing. And it relieves us of all of the confusing question stuff. So notice, hold on a second, let me just share this thought and then I'll open it for more questions. Notice how in this conversation of accelerating your fundraising, we're having this conversation down here in the presentation, we tell them, well, you know, one of the ways that we can start this process is I can give a presentation to your donors right here. And we're saying that I can follow up and talk to the donor about the details about their real estate, etc. And keep in mind that when you've got a live one on the hook, when you've got that form filled out, there's like 10 questions. How much equity do you have? Where's the property? Have you had an appraisal? Whatever. When you have that thing filled out, you're going to get Bruce on the phone. We're never going to let you fall without a net. You're never going to get caught with your pants down. You're just going to go through the process, leading them in the right direction and building great relationships with these board members who all own real estate and know other boards. He talked about how when you do a great job, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour, you can ask them at the end, hey, look, I'm so glad that I'm doing this for our church. This speaks to me. You know what? My husband's a veteran. I'd also love to talk to veterans. John, you sit on the board for the veterans. Don't you think that they'd want to hear this presentation too? Can you make an introduction for me? And the next thing you know, you're over doing the presentation for the veterans too.
Awesome. And CFP, I just looked it up, it's Certified Financial Planner. So it'd be those people at Edward Jones and whatnot.
Yes.
And
well,
he really perked up with that today. He's like, what? Anyway, that's for you and me, but it was awesome.
Now see, all of those certified financial planners, all of those people, I'll bet every one of them sits on a board somewhere. Every one of them. This is why I talk about, as a typical boring real estate agent conversation, you'd go sit at lunch with Edward Jones, one of them, and you'd make some pact that you're going to send each other business. So now you got your financial advisor, and you better not be seen out sitting with a Merrill Lynch person, because now you're cheating on them. You can only have one, maybe 2 or 3. But with this, you could reach out to 50 financial advisors and say, hey, you're a CFP. What board do you sit on? I sit on the board for the Girl Scouts. Awesome. I've got a presentation you and I can partner on. You do the stocks and all that blah, blah stuff. I'll help them with the real estate part.
That's awesome.
Do it with everybody all over town.
Fantastic.
I'm super excited about this. I'm going to get out and start doing these presentations. I want to do the presentations to the financial service people. But this is just, it's just what he's saying is, you know, sometimes we tend to want to go too big. We want to go to the national group or whatever. And the fact is, you all sit on a board in your hometown. You know somebody who sits on, your husband sits on a board. You volunteer for the local whatever. You could even just say to them, if you're just really humble, like Beverly Jones, you could say, hey, you know, I'm working with this group. We've got this really cool presentation. I'd like to practice. And at the end of the day, the information will teach you how to 6 times your endowment. Do you mind if I practice this at our next board meeting?
Amy, do you
Good
know the
idea.
timeline of when this will be done?
When the what?
You know the timeline of when the presentation will be done?
Well, a couple of things about that. This is the first time Danielle's hearing about it. If I know her, she could have it done in 3 days, but I'm not asking her to do it. I'm letting her know that this is a way that we can support you all. But I'm saying don't wait for it to be done. As my mentor taught me as a speaker and as a coach and a mentor, and some of you have heard me say this, sell it and then create it. Go sell it and then create it. So if every one of you talked to someone tomorrow and said, hey, you know, this group that I'm working with, we have this presentation, reading what Danielle says. Yeah, she's going to get on it. You know what? We have this presentation. It talks about how you can 6 times your endowment by accepting large gift assets. I'd like to practice it. When's the next board meeting? In other words, you could start planting the seed. You could start selling it to people, telling them about it, getting booked. Because if you get booked, let's face it, you're not going to be doing it for at least another week, maybe another month before you get on the board's, you know, roster, right? So
Yeah.
you got to sell it and then create it. And don't wait on Danielle. You could do it without Danielle.
That's why I was asking, because, you know, I did have that talk at our board retreat that I sit on. So I do have, on behalf of the senior citizens, they want me to speak to a senior citizen center, wants me to speak to the Rotary Club. And then I have a lender that wants me to meet with them to see how they can be involved in it as well. So I've just been kind of putting it off because I guess I don't have like this, something that I can, they just from what I've told them, that's what they're interested in.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to suggest you do. You reach out to all of them tomorrow and schedule a day and time, sell it. And I will be there with you for every one of them. Every one of them. Let's get this out to people. And Debbie, I was thinking about this too for the, you know, for the hospice and the senior care places and all, same thing for them. Because what we're doing is we're suggesting that we are doing a presentation and a survey. You know, we could say to them, look, you know, we have this presentation presentation sounds kind of boring. We'll come up with education, seminar, I don't know, exciting new awakening. I don't know, whatever the hell we call it. But my point is you can let the senior centers or the nursing homes know, you know what, why don't we, nursing home, do one of these types of presentations for all the families of the people who are in the nursing home. Because those people in the nursing homes and in hospice and all that, they have property that they don't know what to do with, and they're embarrassed to ask. They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look naive. They don't want to get taken advantage of, whatever. So if we offered to do these types of presentations for the families, letting them know. So what a great way for each of us in every marketplace to grab a hold of a estate planning attorney, a hospice, a senior living facility, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and whatever else is in your neighborhood, and let them know, you know what, we're going to come together and we're going to provide the resources that these folks need. We in our group know that there are people in hospice who are wanting to know what to do with their property. Let's put them in front of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and the brain injury people so that they can plead their case that they're the right place for them to get the money. In other words, let's be creative about how we can on a local, let's not worry about national and how to do it national. When we get it in our own community, which is where you guys need to do business anyway, and do that one case study, when you do it for one group, now you can point, I mean, think about it. The PR from it's going to bring others. We just need one in each community.
And I can say that there are many Friends of Hospices in many states. If you just Google Friends of Hospice, you could find one near you. And they work with hospices. You know, mine does 3 different hospices in Southwest Washington.
Well, you know, when you and I were talking about it the other day, it's if you're talking to a nonprofit, there's a direct correlation with how does this benefit them, obviously. But when you're talking to a hospice, unless they're Friends of Hospice, which is a nonprofit, right? But if you're at a hospice or a nursing home, how does it benefit them? Because we all need to think about that. Like, how does it benefit them? So they need to provide value. They are in competition with the other nursing homes, et cetera. If we were to bring them a package of resources, hey, nursing home, here's what our group, the Real Agents of Change, what we do is we bring all the resources your people need to know what they can do with their property. And as a matter of fact, we'll give them 3 to 5 nonprofits that they can choose from. We will give them a third party that can actually help them pull cash out of their house, which helps pay their bill at the nursing home. Like, this is it, guys.
And I can see, you know, having someone that does estate sales and a trash out company and a repair guy, a home inspector that does a pre-inspection so that Bruce knows he's not getting a dud, you know, an appraiser that we can give the business to for that initial appraisal, the whole team, right?
Yes, and Tamisa Leiden's on here too. She's listening in with her camera off. Tamisa and I talked about a program that I brainstormed 2 or 3 years ago called Neighbors in Need, which would help our senior citizens. And that program, I've already come up with a whole list of 100 businesses, from eyeglasses to dentures to hearing aids to walkers to, you know, all the different kinds of business. Look, I'm sorry, it is what it is. Headstones, funeral parlors, like all the businesses that want to get in front of that genre of folks. You know, all of those people could be involved in a campaign like this. And, you know, I can talk with you individually about, like, what are you thinking for your nonprofit in your area? That's what the cause marketing campaigns are. Us talking about who specifically do you want to get in front of? What are you passionate about? How do we spin this all together so that everybody's making money and everybody's making a difference? But suffice it to say, Beverly, go ahead and get these things booked. I'll be there. Whether there is a pretty shiny PowerPoint or whether it's me just sharing right off the top of my head, they will get the information. And if I know Danielle, there'll be a pretty PowerPoint by next week anyway.
I'll get it done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danielle.
Did Russell do a presentation using this outline yet, like that we could listen to?
Yes. Well, he went over it with me yesterday and I recorded it, and I'm going to share it. I'm sharing it in the Facebook group when we get done, but I didn't want to just throw it out. I wanted to interact with everybody. And I want you guys to kind of learn from that. Let's not just throw out an invitation to come to something and hope people show up, or throw them a recording. We want to get people together and brainstorming. So Jessica, I see you're on here. Lori, I know you guys have your cameras off and stuff, but please interject. This Andy Richardson, I haven't seen you in 3 months. I'm so glad to see you on here. please pipe up. Give us any questions or suggestions because I want to help every one of you do this.
I had been prodding Bruce to write a letter that I was trying to get put in the Certified Senior CSA new, either their magazine or even their monthly newsletter, Certified Senior Advisors.
So
I thought it was a great idea and I keep bugging them, but
have him write a letter about what?
write an article about charitable giving in real estate. It goes out to all the CSAs.
Why
From
don't-
there,
why don't-
some there,
Why
from,
don't you write it?
I don't get paid enough.
You're not getting
I
paid.
just figured he had to have something, already put together. So I guess I could.
Well, let's face it, Bruce has got a lot of stuff, but it's dry and it's textbooky.
Right.
If you want a letter, go to Danielle. Go to Danielle and me. We'll get something written up. We're putting together so much stuff right now. You guys have no idea all the good stuff, including for those of you I haven't seen in a while, let me just share this. And by the way, it is 7:43 in 12 minutes. I have a hot date and I'm getting off of this computer at 5 minutes to 8. But I want to share with you a couple of things that
But you're
Danielle
glowing, you look so pretty tonight.
I know, right? Oh, this guy just got me on fire. Okay, what am I looking for? I'm gonna go get what Danielle and I created. So this is an example of a roadmap that you can start sharing with people. Number one, property is donated because the guy is altruistic and smart. When it's donated, it goes, and we're going to tweak this a little bit, but it goes to our specialized nonprofit. They take title and assume the risk, blah, blah, blah. Number three, they hire a charitable real estate specialist, aka realtor, to list and liquidate. Number four, there's a check. The check goes to whoever you see. This one is customized, so it's got Parkinson's on here as an example. So let's say, for example, Tamisa's working with the Alzheimer's people. She could have this customized to have, look, number 4, Alzheimer's gets funded, yay. And here I am, Tamisa. I'm your charitable real estate specialist. So we can make these really custom, but this is simple. Properties donated. Specialized nonprofit takes title, lists it with the real estate agent that we work with at full commission. Proceeds are given to the nonprofit. And if you're smart, you'll do some media and PR and business development, and people will know that you take real estate, and look at that. Here's another donation. And then they take it. So this makes it really super simple for people to understand. And then from that, there is there's this thing, which is so super awesome, which gives a little bit more detail. These are all logos that are groups on the Realty Gift Fund website. Guys, the team that you work with has already given a check to these logos and dozens more. This explains a little bit about it, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You can put your information on here. You can customize these, have Danielle customize them. I'm not going to get into reading it all right now. My point is just to show you, we do have some stuff that's getting ready to roll out, but we can't do it for you. And it can't be everything for free. You got to make some investments, either make it yourself or pay Danielle to customize it, or hire me to help you figure it out. You can't just wait for something to happen. Lori Lane, what's going on, girl? I have not seen you in a coon's age, as we say in the South.
I've never heard it. I've never heard that before. Good. I'm back on the radar.
Good.
So, hi. And yeah, so just working on that stuff, and then made a little bit of progress, but not as much as I would have hoped to by now. So you'll be seeing a lot more of me on a weekly basis.
All those veteran nonprofits, the ones that go up in the woods with people, all those wonderful people that you've talked about, every one of them tomorrow, reach out. Hey, we've got this presentation. Guys, if you need to humble down, be honest. Look, I've never done this presentation before, but it talks about how you can bring in 6 times the endowments you currently are. Why don't I practice it with you and you can give me your feedback? That's honest. And just get it set up, get it on your calendar, and we'll make it happen. Jessica, what's up, girl?
Oh, I was typing in the chat right now. I don't know, listening to you, it made me think of some great taglines. You know, we love to see our $100 sponsors. We want to see our $100,000 sponsors, and we're on a mission to teach you how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I still want to play with our tagline, save a nonprofit, help a donor. Help a donor? I mean,
Well, I think of help a donor, I think of kidneys and organs. I don't know. I don't know, that's just me.
But it just things that are, for me, things that really make you think, what? I've never heard that before. What, at least it makes you want to click and see more about it. Anything that gets people's attention.
Yes, yes.
How
long does a coon
live?
No idea. Oh my gosh, I don't know the answer.
I don't know what it means.
I have no idea.
All right, guys. Well, ask questions now. I've got 7 minutes. And all of this stuff, Danielle's getting ready to roll out our new website, our new way of providing all of this information. You guys really need to connect with Michael Jones. He's got a list of a dozen nonprofits. Michael, you reach out to every one of them tomorrow and say, hey, I wanted to follow up with you. By the way, I might not have mentioned this to you before, but we have a simple 15-minute presentation we could do to your board of how to 6 times your endowments through whatever those words were he said, large gifts of assets or whatever the hell it was. In other words, major gifts of assets. Thank you. I haven't said it before, so I'm stumbling on it, but guess what? By next week, I'll be saying it. It's the same thing for you guys. You just got to say it a lot, right? But if you send them that, Michael, say, hey, you could even tell them, we're just rolling this out now. This is so huge. I'd love to practice it, and you guys can learn and give me feedback.
I almost see like a t-shirt to wear out and about, like ask me about, I don't know, ask me about real estate helping nonprofits or something conversational.
You know what I used to wear, Jessica? I used to have a name badge, the ones that are LED that you could change and it could scroll. And this was back when I was in my my network marketing days. And at the time, don't judge me, it is what it is. At the time, Donald Trump was good friends with the owners of that company, and Donald Trump would come and speak at our conventions every 3 months. And it said, Trump is my business partner. Trump is my business partner. But you know what? It got attention. So I would go to the convention where there's 30,000 of us there. And I actually sold those things at a profit just to pay for my airline ticket. But my point is, you can get those LED things and have it run. Ask me about, well, what would your nonprofit do with $550,000? What would your nonprofit do with 500, right? Just stuff like that.
I love that. I think Danielle needs to sell those. I really do. I really do.
Danielle, we're trying to get you paid, girl.
Done. She said done.
The only thing about it is, in order to get a break on the price of the LED things, you have to buy 100 at a time. And at $15 a piece, you need $1,500 to get started just to turn around and sell them for 30 or 40. But that's a whole other business model.
I know the founder of Mailbox Power, and he's all about only ordering 1 items at a time and making money. Danielle, I'll hook you up. That's who you need to ask.
No, wait a minute. We're not taking Danielle off task. Danielle, no.
I wore my gold lips for you, Cami, today, just so you know.
Hey, is that woman going to be able to help us with our art project and my rig?
No, she said that she's so busy. Not right now.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. I got to go. I love you all. I'm glad you're excited about it. I'm going to post this recording. I'm going to post the recording with Dr. James and the document I just showed you, and keep listening. Guys, come every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. This is how we talk about this stuff and meet each other and get this shit going. I'm here. I'm here. I'm like Horton Hears a Who on the little grain of thing. Oh, we're here. We're here. Yay.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Have fun. Bye.